Alright, so now that you got several of these objects on the screen to look at, and we are in conceptual mode, let's talk about navigating. How do we move around? Well, you did see how the view cube lets you spin around in 3D space by clicking on corners or edges or faces, right? So you want to practice with the view cube until you're comfortable with it. You can also do this if you hold down the shift and hold down your mouse wheel and then move your mouse. You can do a free orbit, which means you can orbit into any angle you want, not restricted to the angles that the view cube automatically provides you. Okay, so view cube is nice. Shift, hold down the wheel, move the mouse, gives you free orbit around that center point right there, that green ball. Okay, another option you would have is up here. We've got some views, right? If your view cube stops working for you at some point, and often it does, kind of annoying to tell you the truth, the view cube will just crap out completely. You can select views using the view selector here, and it'll snap you into different 3D orientations. Okay, now if you hold down the wheel, you'll get the pan tool, and just like in 2D, pan lets you move things left and right across the screen. It's kind of like this is your workbench, and you're grabbing your workbench and you're moving the bench, right, along with all the things on top of the bench. Zoom in and zoom out work just like before. Wherever you put your cursor, that's where you're zooming into. And if you put your cursor off in East Jabru, you're going to get lost in space. And if that happens, just like in 2D, just double click the wheel, click, and that will bring all of your stuff back into view. Okay, so that's a little bit about navigating. You got the view cube, you got the view selector, and you've got the free rotate tools. Okay, along with pan. Let's take a look at some more primitives. Cylinder. A cylinder is a center point. Specify a center point. Specify a radius. Click again. Specify a height. Click again. That was easy. Now understand, when you're creating this geometry, you're creating it on the XY plane, XY0. You can snap to things you've already created. Like I'm snapping to the top of that box next to the cylinder, so it will eventually stop at the height of that cylinder. Over here I'll make a little tiny one and I'll pull it up into space and I'll find the corner, right? So my cylinder will be as tall as the box next to it. You can snap while you're creating these 3D objects to any snap point. So if I wanted to get a midpoint, I can say, okay, go to the midpoint on that edge there, and it will be as tall as the midpoint. Alright, so we got boxes, we got cylinders. A cone is a click for the center point, a click for the radius, and a click for the height. Right, so 3 clicks. Location, base, and altitude. A sphere. Sphere is kind of fun. A sphere is a single click for the center point, and then a single click for the radius, and of course a sphere has a radius, and we can have a big one, we can have a little tiny baby one too, right? 2 clicks gets you a sphere. Pyramid will be a 4-sided base with altitude or height. A wedge is a rectangle, and then one edge is raised like a ramp. And then my favorite, the torus. Torus is a center point and a radius and then a diameter for our tube. So it's a donut shape. Alright, so in little time, we're able to create this interesting little cityscape here, right? All kinds of interesting little shapes. Go through and check out how to use all of the primitive tools. Okay, and then polysolid. You know, polysolid, I just can't figure out what the point of this thing is. I guess if somebody wanted to make a wall, you know, like walls for a house or something, that's the only application I can think of for this thing, making walls. There we go. I feel like King Arthur making Camelot. I just built a wall around all my stuff here. Okay, so give that all a try. Once you've tried that out, we want to take a look back here at our visual style controls. Okay, so you can always switch it back into wireframe. God help me, I don't know why you would, but you know you can, so it's possible. And it shows the edges of things. Sometimes you do want to grab the edge of something or snap to the edge of something, so maybe wireframe would be useful for that, right? Conceptual is the one I like. There is one called hidden, where things look solid, but everything is the color of the background, right? We see the edges of things, but not the hidden edges of anything. All right, and then we have something called realistic. So realistic is supposed to apply a little bit of light to the scene to give it the appearance of highlight and shade and shadow, right? So you got some glare on the sphere there and a little shadowy part on the bottom to simulate the idea that there's a light in the scene. Shaded looks pretty much the same. Realistic will come in handy later when we try to make our objects look like real material, like steel or concrete or wood. Shaded with edges shows you the Gaussian shading, right? That gradient shading along with the edges. Shades of gray. We're not talking about the trashy novel. We're talking about just a gray tone, like a mid-scale. There is a little bit of shadow and shading going on, but not quite to the extent of the realistic. Right? Not so much glare. Sketchy's kind of cool. Sketchy makes everything look like it's hand-drawn. So how ironic is that, right? We developed CAD software so things wouldn't be imperfect. So things would look super precise, and now we have a button that makes it look like it's hand sketched again. But this would be cool if you wanted to impress somebody. You could do some crazy model in 3D, and then you could set it up in sketchy mode and print it out like that, and people will think that you are some amazing artist, right? Here's wireframe again, and that's 3D wireframe. This up here was 2D wireframe. And then our last one is X-ray mode. So X-ray mode is, you can see solid things as solid, but you're also looking through them, and we can see back edges. Alright, so run through those and try them all out, see how they look for you. We'll use different ones at different times. I'm going to stick with conceptual. I think it gives you the most bang for your buck.